From the 90.7 WMCO Geyer Studio, you're tuned in to the Muskie Sports Blast, where we take a deep dive into the Muskie Pond to learn more about the impact the Muskie athletes have on and off the playing field. Always surprising, always fun. This is the Muskie Sports Blast on 90.7 The Orbit.
Hello and welcome to the Muskie Sports Blast. Will Ford in the Geyer Studio with Muskingum Football. Head Coach Erik Ieuter and sophomore tight end Gannon Unger joining the show. Coach Gannon, thank you so much for joining the show tonight. Coach, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Will?
Fantastic, Coach. Thanks for being here. And Gannon, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Doing awesome. So how's the semester going for you so far?
It's going pretty good. It's kind of hard keeping football in class prioritized, but I think I've been doing a lot better job of it this semester.
I was going to say, I think Coach would want you to try to make sure your classes are up there at a high priority for sure.
Yeah.
What major are you?
I'm a history major, and I'm going to go into education as well.
Awesome. So do you want to be I'm assuming here, a teacher?
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you have an idea of what grade or anything like that?
Yeah, I kind of want to do junior high school.
Awesome, man. I love that. Well, Coach, we'll go ahead and dive into the game from last week. So coming off a loss to Mount Union on Saturday, and the scoreboard says what it says, of course, but what were some of your takeaways from the game? Were there some things that you saw in the film where you're like, hey, we did a good job at this, or maybe there's some improvements we need to make in this area? Overall, your takeaways from the game.
Yeah, Mount Union's really, really good.
Yeah.
That's our takeaway, and I think they're out to definitely prove that they are still elite since they had a somewhat close game the week before. So
right.
They were ready to go. We made some mistakes early, and they really got after us pretty good. So, I mean, our guys competed hard. Our guys played hard. But overall, they were a much better team.
Yeah, and it was interesting. You noted that they kind of struggled last week against Ohio Northern, a team that you beat. So kind of psychologically going into that game, you think, hey, I mean, if we beat Ohio Northern and Ohio Northern tested them the way that you did or that they did, then we've got an equal or even a better shot of maybe knocking off Mount Union. Was that kind of the thought process going into the game? Yeah,
I mean, every time you step on the field, you got to believe in yourself and believe that you can win the game. And no matter who you're going against, we knew it was going to be a heck of a challenge. And, there were some things with that game the week before. Mount Union had sounded like double-digit guys out from that game, which I think played a factor, as well, and they got those guys back. But, yeah, I mean, our guys believed that we could win, but Mount, like I said, got after us right away and put an end to that.
And Gannon, you did score the lone touchdown of the day late in the first quarter. From your perspective, just overall, how do you think the offense fared over the weekend? Even though you only scored one touchdown, what were some of your takeaways on the offensive end?
Yeah, we definitely moved the ball against them, and we showed flashes of being able to control the game offensively and move the ball and score. But we just kept taking ourselves out of those situations, with a penalty here and there, not executing on a certain play, and then next thing you know, you're third and long and you have to make a big play or else.
Right.
Yeah. So we just put ourselves in a lot of bad situations.
Gotcha. Yeah. And Coach, that drive that Gannon scored on was a 9-play drive covering 75 yards. You get the touchdown at the end. Other than the touchdown, what did you like about the way the offense was moving the ball, particularly on that drive?
Yeah. I mean that's when we're really good, when we're controlling the ball. We went for it on fourth down. JG got us in a great play and Gannon executed on the option, and so it was really good to see us just clicking in all phases. We threw it and ran it well on that drive. So we just, as Gannon alluded to, we just needed to be a little bit more consistent, and that's been the games that we haven't been good on offense. We've had a penalty or given up a sack. Those things. So just overall consistency, because we talk about all the time in our offensive meetings, if one guy at each position makes just one mistake throughout the game, then you're really not a good offense. So, and we've been pretty good. We just we got to put it all together this week.
For sure. And Gannon, the time of possession, and Coach talks about it all the time, you want to win time of possession and things, and the time of possession was in your favor by a slight margin on Saturday, but it did seem like the offense was on the field a lot more just because Mount kind of has that big playability. They can score on any play, and they can have a lot of really short drives. And did that make it difficult for you in the offense, like because you're out there so often? Was there a level of fatigue that you experienced or any of your teammates experienced being out there kind of so often throughout the game?
Yeah, I think you kind of like try to put that to the side as best you can. Like our job is to go out there and score. And,
Sure.
When we're not doing that, it's going to put that pressure on the defense too. And but yeah, it takes a toll on you like throughout the game, but at the end of the day, like our job is to score, and that's what we got to do.
Yeah, for sure. And Coach, you touched on like maybe plays where that set you back a little bit on offense, like a sack or something like that. And there were 4 sacks in the game on JG. Are there any adjustments? I know we're moving into the last week of the season here, so you're really pulling out all the stops and stuff. But adjustments that you saw in the game that you're going to work on this week as far as a passing protection standpoint?
I mean, we put a lot of work and effort into our pass protections, and we have the right guys. Honestly, just sometimes it wasn't necessarily a schematic thing. It was a guy just getting beat by a Division III All-American.
Sure.
So, I feel good about our pass protection. Going into this week.
Cool. Yeah. And then one other note too. So I know you're primarily on the offensive side of the ball and the creativity and things like that. But defensively, a couple backs for Mount Union, Josh Petroselli and DeAndre Parker, they had pretty good days on the ground. They one had 3 touchdowns, another 4 touchdowns. Just from your observation, looking at the defensive side of the ball, are there any adjustments that you want to see your defense make against the run in particular as you head into the final week of the season?
Yeah, I mean, same thing. Those guys, the reality is Mount Union's at a whole different level than everybody else in the conference.
Right.
So, I don't think there's major adjustments that we have to make. I mean, there's only been one team in our conference that's beat them in like the last 20 years.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So really our defense has played really well. They've played well against the run all year. They've played well against the pass. So, I think we're going to put together a good game this week against Capital.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a very fair point that you make. The Mount Union's just kind of been the dominant team throughout the entire conference, and they're easily one of the 4 or 5 teams in Division III every single year. So, without a doubt. Now, in a game like that against Mount Union where the score is what it is, obviously, the health of your players, that's a concern every game aside from winning the football game. But in a game where, the score is what it is and you kind of just want to get out of that game healthy, and that's kind of like one of the more primary concerns, how did your team come out of that game health-wise, do you think?
Yeah, health-wise, I thought we came out of it pretty good, and we got a couple guys back that maybe weren't quite ready to play in that Mount game that'll be ready to go this week, which is certainly good for us to have as many guys ready to roll in our last game.
Yeah, and Gannon, how are you doing health-wise? Long season, long grind and stuff. Now you're moving into the final week. How have you been feeling physically, as the seasons, went on and now you're in week 11?
I definitely start to get pretty tired around week 8, week 9. I got a couple little injuries here and there, but you get those along the ride. And but overall, I'm feeling pretty good, and I'm pretty excited to play Capital this week.
The Muskie Sports Blast with Muskingum Football. Will Ford in the Geyer studio with head coach Erik Ieuter and sophomore tight end Gannon Unger. We talked about the game against Mount Union last week. Now moving on to week 11, the final week of the year, taking on Capital. And Coach, Capital, they're 2-7 on the year, but I feel like over the last couple of weeks they've had some pretty competitive games. They had a game against Wilmington last week, a comeback bid that fell just short. But your impressions overall of the Comets this year, their strengths, their weaknesses, and just overall what you've seen on the tape.
Yeah, no, Capital is definitely playing a lot better in the last few weeks, and they've got a new coaching staff this year, and Coach Foose and the rest of the staff have done a really nice job. So they're definitely much improved from the last time we played them in 2019, and they beat Ohio Northern a few weeks ago, and then we're in the last 2 games against Otterbein, went down to the wire, and then Wilmington, as you mentioned, went down to the wire. So they have some capable playmakers on offense, and defensively they play really hard. So it's going to be a good challenge for us.
Yeah, it's a good point you brought up that in the spring you didn't play them this past year. So is there anything different about the way the team plays, like schematically, that is different from 2019 to now, that what you've seen?
Yeah, offensively and defensively, and special teams for that matter, are all different schemes. So I think they're really well coached. I think they're very sound. I'm not sure that they were, back in 2019. So,
sure.
They're pretty well coached, and they do play really hard. Whereas when we played them in 19. They weren't playing the way they're playing right now.
Right, for sure. And Gannon, I'll go to you. So Capital's defense, just looking at the stats, they allow about 170 yards rushing a game, and you've been used a lot in the run game the last several weeks. You're listed as a tight end on the roster, of course, but you've been moved around just kind of everywhere all year, maybe throwing the ball a little bit, running it, and then, of course, running some routes. But as a tight end primarily, how often do you practice with the running backs throughout the week to kind of be prepared from a run game perspective?
I go with Coach Eeuter and the quarterbacks and kind of do. Oh, my bad.
That's all good, man.
I go with Coach Eeuter and the quarterbacks and the running backs for individual and kind of get like the footwork and kind of like where I'm supposed to hit the run game at.
Sure.
And then I'll like go do blocking with the tight ends and maybe like run a few routes here and there. And then I just kind of get moved around. Wherever the game plan has me that week.
Right.
So I would say like everything's split pretty evenly about where I play.
Yeah, and for the audience listening and watching, Gannon was recruited as a quarterback coach. So you brought him in, primarily as a signal caller, wanting him to make some throws and stuff, but now plays tight end. But was there a moment where you were watching Gannon in practice and maybe, he wasn't going to play quarterback for you right away, but you just looked at him and you thought, I've got to use him elsewhere? Was there a moment where you're like, we've got to get this guy on the field in some other way other than throwing the football?
Yeah, I mean, he's too good of an athlete to not get him on the field. So, and that's why we use him in a lot of different ways. So,
right.
He likes having the ball in his hands. So, we get it to him at running back, get him at receiver, at tight end, and we snap it to him at quarterback. So, it's I would think you can ask him, but I think it's pretty fun to be able to get moved around a little bit.
Yeah.
And, get the ball quite a bit. So. He definitely has the capability to be a starting quarterback in this league, but obviously he has the capability to be a starting tight end, starting receiver, and starting running back. So
right, yeah.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so Gannon is kind of this gadget player that can kind of just move all around and do a lot of different things. I mean, like, how fun is that from your perspective? Kind of, I guess, not knowing what you're going to do week to week, but then to also just go out there and run these different plays and do a lot of different stuff.
It's definitely really cool. Because like you said, it keeps it interesting. You never know what you're really going to be doing that week. One week I may be playing running back, and then next week I may not even go in at running back and just play tight end the whole time.
Right.
It's definitely interesting to see like how different parts of like their defenses work too.
Mm-hmm. Like
obviously when you're going against the D line, trying to block them.
Sure.
And then like the next play you have to go out, split out wide, and try to get open on a DB. It's really cool to see how all that works and like the different techniques you can use.
Yeah, and Coach, that's probably really valuable to you too, to having another player. Like obviously, like the offensive line and Jordan Garrett are making a lot of those like pre-snap reads in terms of like what the defense is doing. But to have Gannon kind of moving all over the field and he can kind of see everything kind of play by play, like what's happening on the defense. I'm sure that's pretty valuable for you when he comes to the sideline, maybe on an off play, and he can tell you things that are going on that maybe he's seeing out there.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's really impressive because he has to know a lot of stuff. He can't just focus on one position.
Sure.
So to be able to really know all those positions that we mentioned, is really, really impressive because it's not easy.
Yeah. And did you do anything like that in high school, Gannon, or did you just play quarterback primarily?
It was pretty much mostly quarterback. I played wide receiver for like one game my sophomore year, and then I think I played like one snap of running back one time. Mm-hmm. But it was mostly quarterback.
Gotcha. Well, back to the game this Saturday. I'm sure you're going to move Gannon around again and show Capital a lot of different looks. But two guys for Capital on the defensive end, Jake Blaisdell and Des Turkson, they each have, I think 5 sacks and then 5.5 sacks on the season. And we touched on the sacks a little bit against Mount Union, but of course, Mount Union, they've got athletes everywhere and they're kind of a step above the rest of the league. But what are your plans to kind of, get hats on them and kind of keep them under wraps so that way they're not putting pressure on JG this weekend?
Yeah, those are 2 really good players that we're definitely going to have to be aware of. Their defensive line plays really hard, so we're going to have to move the pocket. Running the ball, of course, helps in your pass protection as well. Staying out of third down and longs is definitely key as well. So we talk a lot about being successful on first down. Our goal is to get 4 yards at least on 50% of first down plays. So if we're doing that, second and medium, second and short, we should be in good position. So we're not just drop back passing on third down and 12 and some of those things that we did last week.
For sure, yeah. And then this week, your football team has a chance to win 5 games in a season for the first time since 2003. And of course, I was talking about this with Coach Rennie last week. You want to win every week, of course. You want to go 10-0, but is this milestone of like having the best record since almost 20 years ago? Was that something on your mind when you first came in at Muskingum, is getting to that first 500 mark? Like, where's your headspace at in terms of getting to 5 wins for the first time in a very long time?
Yeah, really our goal when we first took over 3 years ago was to flip the culture. And there was a lot of work by a lot of people from administration to the coaching staff, previous and current coaching staff, and then obviously the seniors that are here, the upperclassmen. There's a lot of work by a lot of people, and we talked about it actually on Sunday in our team meeting, just how impressive it is that the seniors, the older guys, turn around a culture, and that's not easy to do. So that was our focus, is just get this thing going in the right direction, and we feel like we definitely have it going in the right direction. And one of the really cool things is that these guys take care of things in the classroom too. So, and we talked about that, how it carries over to winning football games. Right.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it's mental. And so, yeah.
And just by going to class, turning in your assignments, doing all the little things that. If you're that type of guy, if you're a guy that's going to work hard in a classroom, you're going to work hard on the football field.
Right.
So to have a chance to have the best record in almost 20 years is really cool. And so it shows the trajectory the program is on right now. So we definitely want to get it. We definitely want to finish at 5-5 and. And then go from there, and then it's when Sunday hits, and it's the off season, and we'll go try to get a couple more of the next year.
Right, yeah, for sure. Now, Gannon, I'm sure you're very aware of it too. How much are you talking about that with your teammates? Like, hey, like this Saturday, we've got a chance to do something pretty special. Let's go out there and get it done.
Yeah, it means a lot to the seniors. Come in and flip a culture. So that's a big motivator for us to really come in and do that for them.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. Well, you guys got a good opportunity this Saturday against Capital, and that's Saturday, November 13th, and starts at 1:30, 1:15 pregame here on WMCO. All the time that we have for the show, Coach Eeuter and Gannon, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule, late in the season to come in and join the show. Loved having you on all season long, and best of luck this weekend against Capital. Get to 5-5, first time in 18 years, and go Muskies.
Thanks. Go Muskies.
Thanks for having us.
All right, thank you to Coach Eeuter and Gannon Unger for joining the Muskie Sports Blast this evening. And the Muskingum football team will play at Capital on Saturday, November 13th at 1:30. And Brittany Edgar and myself will be on the call for WMCO with pregame beginning at 1:15. And thank you for listening to this Monday's edition of the Muskie Sports Blast.
Thank you for listening to the Muskie Sports Blast on 90.7 WMCO. Make sure you tune in to the Muskie Sports Blast at 8 p.m. every weeknight except Wednesdays to see what's happening in Muskie sports. Also, check out orbitmediaonline.com for a full list of broadcasts scheduled. This is WMCO, your home for Fighting Muskie Sports.